social responsibility and agri-business ethics. Introduction. The debate about the role of business in protecting the natural and social environment clearly demonstrates the increasingly important relationship between business and its environment. If an agro-enterprise, large or small, is not socially responsible, it may receive well-deserved criticism. But even companies that try their best to be socially responsible can nevertheless quickly become embroiled in an event that captures the public's attention. Some organizations know how to function within their social environments. Others think they know how to function, only to occasionally stumble. Still others have little clear understanding of what it means to function within social environment. What is social responsibility? Social responsibility refers to the obligations of the organizations to protect and or enhance the society in which it functions. Today, there are several factors that argue against social responsibility and several others that argue for a high level of social responsibility. The most prominent of these are mentioned in table number 1 below. Table number 1, arguments for and against enterprise social responsibility. 4. Against. Like individuals, enterprise are citizens. Enterprise social responsibility decreases profits, thus contradicts the real reason for enterprise's existence. Since business creates some problem, it should help solve them. Enterprise social responsibility gives enterprises too much power. Enterprises have ample resources to help society. Enterprises are not accountable for the results of their actions. Business, government, and the general public are partners in our society. Enterprises may lack the enterprise to be socially responsible. Arguments against enterprise social responsibility can be logically refuted. Enterprises may have conflicts on interest in how they spend their money. Approaches to social responsibility. It comes as no surprise to most people that businesses have dramatically different views of how they should behave. Given the persuasive arguments both for and against social responsibility, plus the varied interpretations of socially responsible behavior toward organizational constituents and the natural environment, and in promoting general social welfare. In general, there are 4 basic approaches that characterize agribusiness postures. The first one, social obstruction. The few organizations that take what might be called a social obstruction approach to social responsibility usually do as little as possible to solve social or environmental problems. When they cross the ethical or legal line that separates acceptable from unacceptable practices, their typical responses are to deny or cover up their actions. For instance, a manager of an agro-enterprise learned that the firm is mixing chemical additives to pineapple juice while advertising it as being pure juice with no additives. Rather than losing money on the existing supply of mixed, the managers choose to continue selling it under false pretenses until the existing inventory is gone. The second one, social obligations. The social obligation view is most consistent with the argument that any business activity that is not directly aimed at profit is inadvisable. The company that takes this approach is willing to meet its social government regulation, but nothing more. Thus, it meets its economic and legal responsibilities, but does not go beyond them. Pesticides companies have reduced their advertising in our country and have put consumer warnings on every package of pesticides they sell. However, they did not choose to take these measures. They were forced by government regulations. In other parts of the world where such regulation is not enforced, pesticide companies are still heavily promoting their products. Hence, although they are doing nothing illegal in those countries, the companies are following the letter of the law and not its spirit. The third one is social reaction. The firm using a social reaction approach is one that meets its social obligations but is also willing to react to appropriate societal requests and demands. That is, the company will make limited and specific positive contributions to social welfare. For example, large telecom company such as Reliance India routinely matched employee contributions to worthwhile charitable causes and contributions to their own. These actions fall under the heading of social reaction. So do the action of the company that agree to help its customers free calls, messaging services, internet uses, etc. The key point to note is reaction. The normal pattern is for the customer to knock on the company's door and ask for help, which the firm then agrees to give. The fourth one, social involvement. The firm using the social involvement approach to social responsibility not only fulfills its obligations and responds to requests, just as the social reaction and social obligation types of companies do, but also truly gets involved, actively seeking other ways in ways to help. For example, Nestle India believes that education and empowerment of girl students can benefit the quality of life in communities. About 100 sanitation facilities have been built by Nestle India, benefiting over 36,000 girls students. Such actions may well lead to higher profits, but this is by no means guaranteed, and corporate motive appears to be primarily altruistic. The government and social responsibility. Another areas of significance is the link between the government and the social responsibility. Generally, the government is actively working to regulate and control business while business is attempting to influence the government, as discussed in table 2 below. Table number 2, business and government interaction. Government regulation for business. Business influence on government. Ensures fair labor practices. Gains favorable legislation and lessens scrutiny through personal contacts. Protects the environment. Enhances the company image to government officials and general public. Protects consumers. Influences legislation by using lobbyists. Guarantees safety and health. Add political candidates through donations. Evaluating social responsibility. Any organization that is serious about social responsibility must ensure that its efforts are producing the desired benefits, which means applying the concept of control to social responsibility. Many organizations now require current and new employees to read their guidelines or codes of ethics and then sign statements agreeing to abide by them. An organization should also evaluate how to respond to instances of questionable legal or ethical conduct. Does it follow up immediately? Does it punish those involved, or does it use delay and cover-up tactics? Answer to these questions can help an organization form a picture of the approach to social responsibility. Additionally, some organizations occasionally conduct a corporate social audit, a formal and thorough analysis of the effectiveness of the firm's social performance. The audit requires that the organization clearly define all its social goals, analyze the resources devoted to its goal, determine how well the various goals are being achieved, and make recommendations about which areas need additional attention. Unfortunately, such audits are not conducted very often because they are expensive and time-consuming. In that, most organizations probably could do much more to evaluate the extent of their social responsibility than they currently do. The nature of agribusiness ethics. One critical component necessary to understanding the social environment of agribusiness is understanding the nature of ethics. Ethics are an individual level phenomenon. By this, I mean that the concept of ethics does not apply to an entire organization. It makes no sense, for example, to talk about an organization ethics. But each individual manager within an organization has his or her own personal set of ethics, and the ethical standards and the behavior of those managers can affect the organization in profound ways, as indicated in table number 3. There are numerous approaches to ethics. There does not appear to be any one approach that is consistently applied to management, but elements of several generally appear. Table number 3. Foundations of business ethics. Deontological. The action or decision itself rather than its results determine whether it is ethical. Egoism. Personal self-interest determines whether an action or decision is ethical. Justice. The type of fairness, distributive, procedural, or interactional, determines whether an action or decision is ethical. Relativism. Whether or not an action or decision is ethical depends upon the situation. Teleological. The results of an action or decision determine whether or not it is ethical. Utilitarianism. The determination is based on the greatest good for the greatest number. What are ethics? Ethics are those standards or morals a people sets for himself or herself regarding what is good and bad or right and wrong. Thus, while some behavior is clearly ethical or unethical, much of the behavior in an organization tends to be relatively ethical or relatively unethical. It is important to note the distinction between something that is ethical and something that is legal. The law defines various kinds of acts as acceptable or unacceptable. In contrast, ethics often go beyond the law and are based more on prevailing societal norms and expectations. Thus, an action can be, number 1, both legal and ethical, number 2, legal but unethical, or number 3, both illegal and unethical. Experts differ in their opinion as to whether an action can be ethical but illegal. The formation of ethics. Where do ethics come from? How are they formed? Figure number 1 illustrates the most common factors that determine individual ethics. The formation of an individual's ethic. Family influences. Family influences play a key role in determining an individual's belief as to what is and is not right. For example, a person who grows up in a family with high ethical standards and whose members adhere consistently to those standards is likely to develop higher ethical standards herself than is someone who grows up in a family environment characterized by low or inconsistent practiced ethical standards. Clearly, the influence of the family is particularly significant when the family is also the business, as with many agribusinesses. Peer influences. Peer influences are also quite important in determining a person's ethics. Childhood friends, classmates, and others in a person's social network can shape his or her ethics. Peer pressure, for instance, can help determine how much a person will engage in such questionable activities as shoplifting, experimenting with drugs, and so forth. Past experiences. An individual grow. Their past experiences can also play a role in determining the evolution of their ethical standards. if they behave unethically in given situations and suffer negative consequences. Feeling of guilt, getting caught, their behaviors will probably be more ethical next time. Conversely, if their unethical behavior do not lead to feelings of guilt but instead lead to rewards, they may choose to behave the same way when confronted with similar situations. Values and morals. At a more general level, basic values and morals influence ethics. A person who is profoundly religious, for example, will almost certainly have strong feeling about what is right and what is wrong. Although this may differ from other people's definition of right and wrong, either way, such beliefs will probably carry over to help shape his or her personal ethics. Situational factors. Finally, situational factors are important. These are events that occur in a perhaps random way and that have the potential to determine behavior that may or may not be consistent with a person's ethics. For example, consider an employee who is honest and hardworking. His wife loses her job and the family begins to have trouble making ends meet. One day, when things look especially bad, an opportunity arises on him to make some extra money by selling a company's secret to a competitor. The employee's financial situation and his despair at seeking his family suffer might cause him to accept unethical offer. This factor is situational. If his wife had not lost her job or if he had not been offered the opportunity to sell company's secret, he might well have remained a dedicated, honest and loyal employee throughout his career. The 3 R's of business ethics. The 3 pillars of business ethics are: number 1, respect. Respect for other people, the organization and the social environment we live and work in. This is similar to the concept of team building. Even a genius can succeed only if he has a team to support his accomplishments. Responsibility. It is the 2nd R of the business ethics. You have a responsibility to your customers, your co-workers, your organization and yourself. Being responsible entails providing high quality goods and services on time, sharing the workload and meeting your deadlines. Number 3, results. The 3rd R of business ethics is results. Moral code of conduct for agripreneurs. There are no shortcuts. Cutting corner is no efficiency. Perfect your job efficiency. Applaud and recognize juniors' efforts, contribution and ethical behavior. Share your knowledge. No more hiding. Go the extra mile. Try to understand others' viewpoint. No one likes sermons. Be open in ethical discussions. Focus on serving before selling. Learn from past mistakes. No more let it go attitude. Conclusion. Agripreneurs must understand social responsibility and agribusiness ethics and know how their enterprise should attempt to manage them. For agro-enterprises to develop and maintain culture that lead to social responsible and ethical managerial behavior, entrepreneurs must support such behavior. In addition, the enterprise can develop a code of conduct to serve as a guide to entrepreneurs and subordinates, and a reminder of the importance of social responsibility and ethical behavior to the enterprise.